Hi, I'm Jill Fitzhenry, and I'm going to show you a fun little journal project today. The journaling really is become so popular to just do something creative once or twice a day, and this is something quick and easy that I know you're going to love doing. To start with, I've got my Dynasty black gold brushes, and this actually does come in a set. It's the BG20, but I'm going to be using 3 of those brushes, the whale's tail, the fountain brush, and the wave angle. I'm also going to show you how I use the Stencil Pro brush to do some stenciling in the background of this page. So let's get started. To begin with, I'm going to stencil just one side of my journal page, and I've taken that out of my book, and I'll be able to put it right back in again. If you want, you can tape it down so it's a little bit more secure. I'm going to start with my Stencil Pro, and I want to begin by really filling that up with lots of paint. I've got the Deco Art Morning Mist. It's their Americana acrylic paint, and I'm using that to really plump up that brush. Okay, then what I want to do is I've got the whole inside filled with paint in that brush. So now what I want to do is put the brush in between a paper towel, pinch it, and pull so I'm getting all the excess paint off the brush. Okay, and I'm only going to do the letters around the outside edge of the page because I've got flowers I'll put on the other side. I don't want to pounce like people typically have done in the past. I want to do a real gentle little swirling motion with this brush. And a little goes a long way, so there's no pressure whatsoever to start with. And I don't mind if some of the letters are a little bit more transparent than others because I just want this for like a background effect. I could definitely pick, certain words that are the more inspiring to me and place it around, but this happened to just fit perfectly. Now you can see how far I'm going with just one load. Sometimes I have to load it twice to get through to the bottom of the page, but I repeat that first process then. As I start running out of paint, then I might put just a little bit of pressure down so that I get the paint to come off the brush easier. Okay, now I moved it just a little bit, but that's okay. I can line it right back up. That's why you might want to put a little tape on and secure it so that you don't bump it. Okay, now when I lift this up, see, I've got a really nice stencil design in the background. I'm going to just put my brush in some water till I have time to clean it. Okay, then I'm going to start with my flower to begin with. So for that little sunflower up in the corner, I'm going to be using the whale's tail. Now the whale's tail is really a unique brush because it's got a little indent in it, and there's lots of fun things that you can do with it. But today I'm going to show you the little sunflower. So I wet the brush. I'm going to use the Deco Art fluid media. And it's an acrylic, but it works a little bit more like a watercolor, so I like that for the journal pages. Okay, so I've got a little bit thinned down, and I'm going to let the brush do all the work for me. The whale's tail, and this is a 1/2 inch. I'm going to come out right from this corner of the page, and I'm going to start in the middle, and then I'll pull on each side. I'll reload often. I just set the brush down and pull. I let the brush do all the work for me. Set it down and pull. And if I needed to, I could go back on top of a stroke again. Set it down and pull. And I reload often. Sometimes I can get a couple out. There, so I've got all the way around. Okay, then I'm going to clean the brush. And I'm going to come back And I'm going to add some white ones on top of that. Okay, so I'm going to get some of the white fluid media. Now this time I'm going to go in between the first ones. There again, just let the brush do the work for you. So I'm getting another layer and pull. And if it gets offset a little bit, not a problem. Okay, clean the brush. Then I'm going to stencil, or I'm going to stipple the center in. So for the center, I'm going to use what's called a fountain brush. Now the fountain brush is like it has a little hole right in the middle of it. So to begin with, I want to spread those bristles out. So I'll get it wet. I'm going to squish it down on my palette here, and I'm going to twist in a circle so that I'm spreading all those little bristles out nice into a circle. I'll dip the tips into the yellow, and I'm going to just pounce and create a little textured center on this flower. Just a light little touch. You decide if you want it to be light and airy or if you want it to be filled in solid, totally up to you. Okay, then I'm not going to clean the brush. I'm going to just get one little side with some orange. And I'm going to use that orange and I'm going to stipple that carefully right where it touches the petals. Okay, and I'm going to create a little variation of color. So now I've got across the top there. Now I'm going to barely touch. I want a nice little graduation of color, nice and lacy, just using the tips. Don't push too hard. Very, very, very light touch, barely touching, and then you get a nice gradation of color. Okay, rinse the brush. To finish that off, I'm going to add some white dots. Now sometimes I'll wait and do the rest of the project, come back and do the white dots so I don't get my hand in it. But let's give it a shot. So I'm using the wooden end of the brush. I've dipped it in the white paint, and I'm going to add little dots in the top part of that area. Now every time you set it down, you get a different size dot, so I just kind of allow it to vary throughout. Reload often. You can put as many or as little on as you want. And these dots could be any color depending on what color your flower is. You just need a color that's going to show up. Okay. Then I'm ready for my feathers. Now for the feathers, I'm going to use what's called a wave angle. The wave angle is like you've taken a little pinking shears and cropped off the tips of them. First, I want to decide where I want my feather to be. So I'm going to use just the chisel edge, and I'm going to draw a center vein line where I want those feathers to come into. And I'm going to put 2 on this. Sometimes it's 1, sometimes it's 2, just depending on what you have room for. Okay, and I'm using the blue. Now I want to be able to pull these at an angle, so I'm going to give myself just a little guideline. So 45-degree angle, that's the direction I want to be pulling this brush. I'm going to let the tips do all the work for me, those little tips. Don't push down, just barely drag those little tips and you'll get little feather lines. Barely drag the tips. Reload as often as you need to. Some feathers are long and skinny, some are fat and short. So you just let it be your own individual little style. And I'm going to go on the other side. Pull and go right down till I hit the flower. Same thing on the other feather. I'm going to pull just using the tips. Try not to push down. I'll let the tips do all the work for you. And you can go back over an area if you want to. If I didn't like the way I had the tip, I could reshape it and go back over it again. I want to add some color in here, so I'm going to add some green next. Same thing, just use the tips. And I'm not going to do the whole feather. I just want to kind of hit and miss a little bit just to get some interest. And you can make the feathers any color you want. You can do pinks or purples or blues or greens, yellows, whatever is your favorite colors. And you'll notice I'm blotting in between colors and rinsing. Okay, I'm going to add a little yellow in there too, just to get a little bit more. Yellow, blue, and green go very nicely together. Just add a few little hit and miss here. Sometimes I'll add just down the center. Sometimes I'll add on just tips. So just play around, just have fun. Okay, then, if you've lost your center vein, go ahead and put that back in again. I'm going to draw that back in, make sure that I can see the center of my feathers. Okay, then, one more thing I want to do to that feather is I want to add a little bit of glimmer to it. So I've got the Deco Art Extreme Sheen 24 karat gold. And I'm just going to brush a little bit of this here and there. I'm not as worried about making little thin lines because this will be transparent on top of the colors, and it's just going to add shimmer when you kind of move the paper around. So let's see if I can get the shimmer to pick up a little bit. Makes it pretty. If you want, you could also add some of this up in the yellow part of the flower. Just brush it in. It's not going to cover up what you already have there. It's just going to add a little bit of extra shimmer. Okay, and then rinse that brush. For in the background, I've added some little circles, kind of like sunspots. Now for that, I'm going to go back to my fountain brush. There again, I'm going to squish it down on, now I got a little too much water, I'm going to blot some off. Squish it down on the palette, twist it, make sure I get a nice circle, and I'm going to get some yellow to begin with. Now this time when I set the brush down, handle up in the air, straight up in the air, set the brush down all the way to the ferrule, squish it hard, and then turn it in a circle and you get automatic round circles. And I'm going to place these throughout the background. Okay, now if I do less pressure, I can get smaller circles. Don't be afraid to overlap onto some of the lettering. We're not trying to definitely avoid it. We want everything to kind of pull together here. Everything can touch. I'll start out, and if you don't like what you did, go back on top of it and, try it again. You can go over it again. Okay, so I've got some yellow. I'm going to add some blue in there. It's actually teal, cobalt teal is what it's really called. Now, there again, I'm going to allow, now I got a little bit too much water, I'll blot that off. I'm going to allow the circles to go ahead and touch here and there. Let some of it overlap onto the letters. Let the color vary. Some can be paler, some can be bolder, so that you have a variety of shapes, sizes, and intensity. And maybe one more down here. Okay. Then to finish it, I want some smaller dots, and in order to pull that orange into the piece, I'm going to use the wooden end of the brush, and I'm just going to dot some orange dots here and there. Remember, they get smaller as you set it down, so kind of jump around a little bit so that it'll vary. Don't worry if you land on top of a dot, or a circle, or the lettering. There, that's good. Okay, then one more thing I want to do is I want to add some little sparkle lines on here. So I'm going to go back to the wave angle, And I'm going to use that metallic gold again. And this time when I use it, I'm not going to pull. I'm just going to set the brush down. So when I set down and just apply a little pressure, I get a nice little wavy line. And I'm going to crisscross those lines to get little sparkles. And I'll add that just randomly throughout the background. So you'll see you really don't need a pattern for this. You just start with your stencil and then you just keep adding little elements throughout until it's the way you want it to be. And the more you add, the more it distracts from any imperfection that you're not happy with. Crisscross the lines. I'm not pulling, I'm just setting and lifting. Don't be afraid to overlap over some of the circles or the letters. And then we have our journal page. Now to finish it off, you can embellish it with little stick-on flowers or rhinestones. Just have fun, make it your own. I hope you've enjoyed and give it a shot. Thank you.